Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Startup Soirée podcast. This is your host, Patrick Reif. Thank you for tuning in again. Everything is well and good in Startup Soirée land. I'm excited to have today's guest on. It's Colin Marshall from Diamondback Brewing Co. Diamondback has provided the beer for two Startup Soirée events. I believe it was April and May, and one brought great beer so that way we could drink great beer. But two, they showed us kind of the early evolution of their business and where it's going. So month one, they brought in kegs and they poured, and then between month one and month two, they got some of their beer into cans, and then they brought back and they served in cans the second month. So it was a great little kind of 1-2 punch. But I can tell it nowhere near as good as Colin can. So let's welcome him. Colin, welcome to the Startup Soirée podcast. Thank you for being our guest.
Hello, Startup Soirée world. Thank you, Patrick.
So, Colin, do us a solid and just give a little bit of background about you, and then set up kind of the bigger pitch for Diamondback and what you guys are up to, what the plan is.
Sure, yeah. So I started, first, Colin Marshall. I was born in Maryland, born and raised here. Moved out to Wyoming for a year, and when I came back from Wyoming, myself, Tom Foster, and Francis Smith bound together and launched Diamondback. But to give you a little bit of background on the company, before we actually launched in November of 2014, there was a couple evolutions of the way that we would start. Plan A was to go after angel investors and open up our own production facility to begin. Once that proved difficult and not within our time period, we went after Plan B, which was Kickstarter. And if you're not familiar with Kickstarter, it's an online crowd fund sourcing of sorts that we were going to launch with a plan and incentives depending on how much money you donated. And we had a goal of about $20,000 to $30,000. But once we realized that Francis had a real job at the time, Tom was working on a 9-to-5 job, and I was moving away, it was going to be difficult to get everyone together, put a video together, edited, and have that time period to raise $20,000 to $30,000. So Plan C it was, and Plan C was self-funded, and that's the one we rolled with. We got our funds together, launched at Eastern Shore Brewing Company in a 7.5 barrel system, turning out 30 barrels a month, strictly draft, and our staple beer, the 330 Amber Ale. And since then, we have launched a second beer, moved on to Beltway Brewing Company, and like Patrick reiterated, we have cans now that are in retail on the shelves and also in bars along with the draft.
Awesome. I got a million questions. I'm going to totally break normal script and just kind of get with it. I hope you don't mind me getting nitty gritty. If you do, ask me to edit this question out. But that first iteration of, did you say 13 barrels? Is that what you said?
So it was a 7.5 barrel system.
I'm a crap listener. I'm sorry, Colin. My bad.
That's okay.
I'm actually a pretty good listener. I'm just not great with details all the time. So that we'll call that like the lean version, right? Like that was your lean version of how you guys were going to get it going. I
like to call it the skinny.
The skinny. So how skinny was it? How if you don't mind, like how cheaply could you guys try that idea? Because I think that's kind of the secret of the success story is if you have enough like tenacity and determination, it doesn't have to cost as much money. There's so much hard work that can save so much money depending on if you're ready to apply it or not.
Right. I mean, there are so many different ways you could go at it. I mean, look at the craft beer industry right now, booming in the United States. I think I heard a stat today that the craft beer industry employs something like 115,000 people in the United States, and it's only growing. But to get back to your point, the way you could have gone about it is you could have opened up your own production brewery that would have cost anywhere between $200,000 and a couple million, depending on how big you want to go. Or you could go the skinny way like we did And you can go grassroots, and you can start with X amount of dollars that is small and build a small business plan with one beer, a 7.5 barrel system, strictly draft, and not to mention self-distribution as well. The big way to go is, or the next step to go would be launch with 2 beers, have a distributor, contract brew, potentially have your own production facility. But we've always been different. We've always wanted to do it differently than everybody else does because that's what fits for us. And also, when you hear about our success story and how we've grown from where we started, you realize how possible it is to grow a company from virtually nothing.
So what did it take for you to launch that very first brew? Like, how much money did you come to the table with to do that first 7.5 barrels? And what was the like length of time? What was the process like for that? I think that's a super interesting space, that, the fundamentals.
Yeah. If I could say one thing, make sure that you say your prayers the night before you ever go to a permit office down in Baltimore City, because it is one of those things that you will go back and forth between having the correct paperwork and not having the correct paperwork, and you've got to meet with several different people before you're actually fully permitted to sell beer as a wholesaler in the state of Maryland, as well as have a warehouse to house it. So you've got to go through several different channels. But, if I had to put a monetary value on it, an initial launch between cooperage of kegs, purchase orders at the brewery, budget trucks to go down and get the beer and bring it up to our warehouse, the overhead on rental at the warehouse, you're looking at, anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 to really kick it off. When everything's all said and done, it's anywhere between 10 and 20. But that's not where it stops. It continues to go on from $10,000, $20,000, and then you're pushing onward from there.
Right.
Because every month you've got to pay your rent, you've got to pay your purchase orders, you've got to pay your overhead expenses, your marketing to let people know it's out there, your tap handles, and when you get bigger, month after month, you've got to buy more kegs. So.
Sounds like you're getting into it. You got your sleeves up.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's endless. I mean, I could continue to go on from month 1 to what we're in month 8 now, almost 8 months, and you've got cans, you've got a second beer, you've got over 100 counts that you're self-distributing to. You've got a CRM online. You've got a sales force that you're, running everything down the pipeline with. You've got outside sales that you want to bring in, and then you've got inside sales that you've got to manage. And are those inside sales retail, or are those inside sales bars? And you got to treat both of them differently. Not to mention, when you go out and you're sampling in the industry and you're dropping off samples, you don't make the sale right away. That bar manager or that store owner doesn't try that beer right away. They month 2 or day 2, day 3, day 4. You go back 5, 6, 7 times. There was just a stat online that you will make your sale between your stop of 5 and 12th time back. I mean, that's how persistent you have to be. And this is from a self-distribution side. I mean, if you've got a distributor who has a reputation that backs them and a sales force of 25 to 30 people who, when they walk into the liquor store, they know exactly who these people are. And if they bring a new product to the table, well, they're bringing it for a reason, because they know that it's backed by this distribution company. But when you come in as a 24-year-old that looks like he's about 17, they card you, and then they taste your product and see how good it is, and then they've got to figure out that you're self-distributed and that you're a wholesaler. I mean, that's a lot for them to collect right there and put a gamble on you. And then once it's in that bar, you're then figuring out, well, is it going to sell well? What market is it in? And if it does sell well, are they going to re-up? Or are you on a one-off situation where they put you on and then in 2 months they'll bring you back? And that's the case most often.
Sure, I would assume that jockeying for tap space in the craft beer market is not for the faint of heart.
No, not at all. Especially when you're a small guy, when you're a small company, and you've got to go in like you got to go in. I don't want to say bull in a china shop, but you got to be aggressive, because when you get on tap, companies like Bond and Chesapeake and Republic National and Legends, and whatever other distributors that might be in play in the area, depending on what market you're in, are going to try and take you off because that's their tap space. That's money in their pocket that you just took out. And if you've got a good beer and it's selling well, what incentive does that bar or that restaurant or that liquor store have to take you off the shelf or off the tap? If it's bringing money into their pocket and it's selling well and their customers are perceiving it well, why should they take you off? That's the big question. And the answer to us is you shouldn't. If we've got a good product, a good story, and you can sell it well, and it's putting money in your pocket, and we have a mutual relationship that's beneficial to both parties, why take it off?
Makes perfect sense to me. Okay, I have my next question, which is, in terms of marketing your company. So I know that you guys are really lean. I'd love to know if you're spending money on marketing. I don't even know how much. I'm just curious if you're spending money on marketing, and if so, how? And then the other thing is, I'd really love to know how you are marketing your brand and not spending any money.
Sure. So there's a couple avenues to go with the marketing aspect. There's the social media avenue. I mean, there's many different players, I guess you could say. There's not just one way to go at all. There's the social media, whether you pay for sponsorship or not, and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you've got a blog, throwing it on WordPress or whatever blog system you used. And then there's the in-store marketing, setting up your tastings. Actually being out in the market when the general public is coming into a store to buy a certain product, and you've got a tasting right there saying, would you like to try our product? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to like your product, and they're going to take it home with them that time because they've met the person who is a rep or who is an owner of that brewing company, and they can now put a face to the company. And not only does that benefit you in that exact moment, but it benefits you down the line when they're in a bar and they see Diamondback. Hey, I know the guys who own that company, or I know the guys who represent that company. I really like them, and I enjoyed their product, and I'll buy it again. Or when they see it on the shelf again, they'll buy it. So that aspect of marketing doesn't cost you a lot. The social media is free unless you pay for it. Your tap handles, that's a form of marketing as well. I mean, they're sitting up there on the space. Your koozies, your pint glasses when you go out. We're about to roll out, what else are we about to roll out? Coasters. You buy thousands of coasters, go into your accounts, give them a couple hundred of them, and every time someone gets a beer, every time somebody gets the most popular drink of Boulder right now, an Orange Crush or a Grapefruit Crush or whatever type of crush you're drinking, they get a coaster, and it's going to be a Diamondback coaster under there. And when you're out at events and we throw out T-shirts, everybody enjoys a T-shirt. Who doesn't want to add one to the collection, whether you're using it on the field or whether you're going to bed with it or whether you're just wearing it around town on a regular day? It's a representation right there. And then, you can get into other forms of advertising, but that's kind of outside our league at this time, billboards or radio ads. But what is free advertising in that department is when you match up with somebody like WTMD. I couldn't tell you how many people called us or messaged us and said, hey, man, we heard your name was on the radio. That's awesome. Like, good for you guys. I'll look for your beer wherever we go. And that's because we did Brews and Bands. And for 3 to 4 weeks, they broadcasted in a radio spot a couple times a day. Hey, WTMD, Brews and Bands on Saturday, April, whatever. We're going to have so-and-so with Diamondback gets mentioned right there. And somebody's like, oh, I know those guys, Diamondback. So that's free to us right there. And perfect. We'll be sponsoring the backstage bands at the first Thursday in July, and all the band members in the back will get a Diamondback Golden Ale or Amber Ale. We just did the Great Strides Walk. We partnered with Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and we donated 15 cases of beer to their Great Walk. Over 600 people drank our beer.
We should do a backstage photo booth with you guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should do that. We should team up for that. That's a good idea.
You've got a drop back of Startup Soirée, pixelated in Diamondback, all right on there. And who doesn't love a photo booth with crazy dress ups?
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. Plus, it'll be behind the scenes. We're working with Stacy Chambers from Go-Go's Retread Threads, that crazy psychedelic school bus that
Yep.
sells vintage clothes. We're gonna actually be there using her bus as the photo booth backdrop for June. So maybe we can work with you guys for July. That's a cool idea. Sorry, I didn't mean to railroad it. I love all that stuff. The other, we're Nick
I'm
and
on
I.
the bus, man. I'm on the bandwagon. No
On the
pun
bus,
intended.
on the bus. Nick and I have been talking a lot about. We have a plan for beer coasters as well. Albeit we've talked about really hyper kind of hitting Federal Hill, since that's where we got this new home. But that could be a cool cross promotion as well. We should talk a little bit, Colin. We should talk about some opportunities for us to capitalize on some inertia,
Well,
some built up
Coffee
inertia.
shop conversation. I'm in.
So, man, there is like a million questions I could ask you, but like I said, we try and keep it kind of brief. But I kind of want to dig one more question in before I wrap up.
Make it a good one.
And that is, I'm curious about your point of view on kind of like the burgeoning local craft beer market. And don't give me like the cookie cutter, like, yeah, it's great. I mean, be honest about it. But I'm looking for a little bit more of like a perspective, because I'm guessing that you're meeting other brewers and you are or are not fomenting relationships with them. So I think it's just, at Soirée, we've been talking a lot about putting together a brewers panel. I think that's absolutely going to happen before the end of the calendar year. I think we'll do a special startup soiree, and we'll have you guys and the guys from Jailbreak and the guys from Union and hopefully Heavy Seas come and maybe Monument, some of these smaller guys come and have like a real focused conversation about what's happening, because there's clearly something about Maryland and the ways that the laws have changed to make that opportunity really kind of take hold. And I think that it's cool. You're seeing the acknowledgement from the entrepreneur community here, seeing that as an opportunity and really moving into the space. I mean, you guys did it, and certainly you're not even close to the first ones in the area doing it, but you're kicking ass, which is cool. There's definitely, I think, craft beer is like a big world of potential, because you're brewing up your own version of something. It's kind of like selling paintings. Like, as long as you like really care about it and you hustle, you should be able to find a contingency that loves your brew. So I know that was a bit of a run-on question there, but yeah, what is your point of view about kind of the state of, the craft brewery community, I guess, in Baltimore and Maryland?
So, Patrick, I mean, there's so much good beer out there, and we're not talking just Maryland, but Bell's Brewery just came into Maryland. Everybody loves Bell's. They've got, behind Heady Tapper, are saying the world's second best IPA. And they've got amazing beers behind that. And Bond is pushing them, and a couple other distributors are pushing them hard. And they're going to sell really well in Baltimore. But that's going to put a lot of pressure on big companies in Maryland, Heavy Seas, Flying Dog, and then the smaller guys too, because you're going to be vying for shelf space and tap space. But on more of a local level, I always say, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. These guys are your competition. No matter whether it's Flying Dog or whether it's Monument, no matter whether they're brewing, 1,000 to 2,000 barrels a year or 45,000 barrels a year, they're still your competition, because they're still on the shelf next to you. They're still on the tap space next to you. But what we need to do in the Maryland market is not necessarily form an official organization, but the small guys, like people who are brewing 10,000 barrels and under, meaning Union, Monument, Full Tilt, Fin City, who are the other guys? Ourselves, Diamondback, Public Works, Red Shedman, Milk House. All of these small guys need to get together, and they need to realize that there are bigger guys than us inside this market that we are vying for tap space with. And the only way that we're going to create a pressured competition that the bigger guys will feel is if we band together and agree on certain terms that we can take these guys down together. We can force these guys out and make this our market. And some people will say, it's the big guys, you can't really mess with them. No, we can. We really can, but you've got to be strategic about it. You've got to be smart about it, and you've got to be able to realize that if we get 10 small guys together to take down a really big guy, it's possible. It is. It may take a year. It may take 2 years. It may take 3 years. But if you've got that vision and you've got that passion, you've got that drive, and you've got the compassion to bind together between all the local guys around here that are small and big, then you're able to not necessarily drive them out, but make them feel that we're there. Let them know that this is our turf and we're here to stay.
That's awesome. Colin, you got such a fucking awesome attitude, man. I'm so stoked. I'm really glad that I know you. That was it. We're not gonna answer any more questions because that was the sound bite from hell to totally. That was the mic drop. Before we wrap up, tell all these people where to go buy your beer and also what to look out for and how to get involved in the brand.
Yeah. So please follow us on Instagram at Diamondback Brew, on Facebook Diamondback Brewing Company, on Twitter at Diamondback Beer. You can find us heavily in the Fed Hill market, Canton market. We're trying to push into Fells a little bit more, and we've got about 22 liquor stores that we're in. So just when you go in there, ask for the 330 or the Golden Ale by Diamondback. And if they don't have it for some reason, mention it to them and make sure they know who we are before you leave that restaurant or that liquor store. Because I'm sure people know who we are, but one of the best situations that we can ask from the general public and from Startup Soirée world is that if we're not in a place, we're trying to get into that place, and you're the voice behind it as well, saying, hey, we know these guys, they make good beer, seek them out, and they're also coming to find you to get into your tap space or get onto your shelf.
There you have it. All right, guys, the order of the day is to go drink beer. Not too bad, not too hard to follow. Well, there you have it. That's our chat with Colin and the Diamondback rollout, what we're experiencing. So definitely be sure to look for it, ask for it at your bars and in your liquor stores. Take it home with you. I have consumed a lot of both of them. I've consumed them in cans. I've consumed them on tap, and they're really, really good. Seriously, legitimately good beer. Particularly when you take into light that this is the first two beers that these folks have produced ever. So coming out of the gate real strong. Okay, guys, you know the deal. I need you to head to iTunes and leave us a sweet review, because those sweet reviews help other people find the show. And when other people find this show, they see all the awesome stuff happening in Baltimore, and then we win. Aside from that, I don't know. Things are getting crazy here. Summertime. I'm having fun. I would love it if somebody would tweet some questions at me at Patrick Reif. Colin, I'm done rambling. Hey, thank you so much for being our guest today. Can't wait to see you at the next Startup Soirée, buddy.
Hey, Patrick. Can't wait to see you around town, and let's kick ass.
That sounds good. Hey, man, tell all the dudes we said take it easy.
We will.
All right, peace.
See ya.